Welcome to Unpopular Bible Stories that you just want to love. This unpopular story comes to us from Judges 9, verses 7 to 15. It is told by Jotham, who is the youngest son of Gideon, also called Jerubbaal. To set the stage, Gideon had won a number of battles for Israel, the last being the defeat of the Midianites. The Israelites wanted him to be their king, but he said no, he would not rule over them because the Lord is their ruler. When he died, the people forgot about God and went serving other gods. Then one of his sons, Abimelech, wanted to be king, but he wasn't in line to be ruler. So, in order to get to be king, he killed off his 70 brothers. Jotham, who realized what was happening, hid. Eventually, they appointed Abimelech king, and when Jotham heard, he went to the people and told them this parable. So, here goes. One day the trees were in the forest and talking to each other. They said, "We need a king to reign over us." Then the little one said, "Yes, I need a king too." The trees went to the olive tree and said, "Morning, olive tree, reign thou over us." The olive tree was kind of surprised at the request, but said, "Should I leave my fatness, wherewith by me they honor God and man, and go to be promoted over trees?" The trees continued on their quest and came to the fig tree. They said, "Fig tree, come thou and reign over us." The fig tree said, "Should I forget my sweetness and my good fruit and go to be promoted over trees?" The trees were very persistent and they kept going. They came to the vine and said, "Vine, come thou and reign over us." Like the other two before him, the vine asked, "Should I leave my wine which cheereth God and man and go to be promoted over the trees?" The trees went on searching for their king, and they came to the bramble, or thistle. Unlikely choice, and they seemed desperate, so they told the little tree to ask. The little tree said, "Come thou and reign over us, bramble." Seems like this was the opportunity the bramble was waiting for all its life, and it responded gladly to the request. The bramble said, "If in truth he anoints me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon." And that's the end of the parable. When Jesus tells a parable, he gives the meaning. Unfortunately, Jotham was so afraid that he didn't stay around to give the meaning and ran away as soon as they had finished telling the parable. We're going to have to come up with our own meaning. These are my observations. First and foremost, if we look at the characters in the story, the trees, the olive tree, the fig tree, the vine, and the bramble. The bramble identified the trees for us as the cedars of Lebanon. Cedars can grow up to heights of 180 feet, that is as tall as 30 men standing on top of each other. And a bramble grows to the height of, say, about 6.5 feet. Now imagine that a cedar tree is asking a bramble to be their king. So, what I picked up from that is that you should know who should be your leader. Another lesson from this story that we can learn is that when we're intent on doing wrong, we will go from bad to worse. Now, look at their progression in the search for a king. The majestic cedar trees went from an olive tree to a fig tree to a vine, eventually to a bramble. And we can see the decline in not only size but also value. Thirdly, not only do we go from bad to worse, but we make bad choices. Look at who the cedar trees chose to be their king, a bramble. Imagine that. Another lesson is to know your appointment or your role and not be sidetracked by opportunities, even when they seem positive. The olive tree, fig tree, and vine did not entertain any discussion with the cedar trees in their search for a king. Their question pointed to the role that they had and which they were happy to carry out. They knew their purpose and they did not fall to the promise of a leadership position. This is not to say that aiming for leadership or accepting a leadership position is bad, but instead, if you choose to accept such a position, it should not prevent you from doing what you were appointed to do. It should not cause you to be sidetracked. In addition to that, whatever you do should be glorifying and honoring God, and also a blessing to man. Like Paul says in 1 Corinthians 10, verse 31. So whether you eat or drink or whatever you do it all for the glory of God. This was highlighted in the response of the olive tree and the vine, which I like. The olive tree said, should I leave my fatness wherewith by me they honor God and man? And the vine said, should I leave my wine which cheereth God and man? They knew their purpose and were steadfast in carrying out their duties. Finally, be careful in whose shadow you trust. The bramble made a statement. If in truth you anoint me king over you, then come and put your trust in my shadow. And if not, let fire come out of the bramble and devour the cedars of Lebanon. That was a threat, if ever there was one. Anoint me king, and you better show me allegiance, or I will destroy you. The bramble said, come and put your trust in my shadow. Now imagine a 180 feet tree being shielded by a 6 feet bramble. 174 feet still remains exposed. Let us do like David and abide under the shadow of the Almighty. You can read the rest of the story to get the end of it. But in short, Abimelech was made king. He served for only 3 years, but you could consider him a bramble king. Don't be as the cedars of Lebanon in this parable, but say like Gideon did, the Lord shall rule over us. Thanks for watching, and see you next time for another unpopular Bible story.